lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
You're in good company.
Hours, yes. So I know there's a lot of D&D fans out here. So so the idea that I would become a professional actor, artist, I didn't know any professional actors or artists in suburban Seattle. I'd never met anyone who had gotten a paycheck to be, an actor or a composer or a singer or performer or painter or poet or anything like that. So the idea that I would even just kind of make a living as an actor, not let alone have some success at it, was really beyond my wildest dreams.
Well, what is your origin story then? Let's talk about your origin story as an artist. You're playing D&D and you're making pottery and playing chess. Then how did you end up on The Office?
I was bit by a radioactive spider.
Okay.
No, it's Seattle, so I was bit by a radioactive squirrel, raccoon. I was a nerd in so many different ways, but we were also real comedy nerds. And I think there's a lot of comedy nerds in Seattle. I think that's why The Office is so popular here. But I grew up watching Monty Python and just a lot of great American sitcoms and then Saturday Night Live, and I always loved comedy. I loved those comedy sidekicks from all the great sitcoms. And from MASH or from Bob Newhart or Cheers or whatever, and so that was, I always kind of wanted to be an actor, but I think it was beyond my wildest dreams that I could be a comic sidekick, crazy, weird character, so that the dream came true. But also I did some acting at the University of Washington up here. I did my sophomore year of college, I did at UW, and that's actually where I met my wife, in acting class in Hutchinson Hall, and we've been together for 28 years.
That's amazing. I heard a lot of awes out there. That's a success story.
Yeah.
What was the audition process like for The Office?
But you just skipped over like 25 years.
I'm gonna go back to it. We jump around here.
You went from like UW to like 2004.
Yeah.
No, I'm just teasing. The audition thing for The Office. So I was cast in a completely different pilot when The Office was casting. I was cast in a Untitled Janine Garofalo pilot, where I was like the comic sidekick Janine Garofalo. And this pilot was infamous because they had built our sets, we were ready to shoot, and we did a table read for ABC, was the network. And the table read went so bad that the pilot was canceled before it shot.
Wow.
We were all paid contractually, and they just canceled the shoot.
So you
I had my plane tickets to go to Vancouver, and on the way out of the table read, this absolutely true story, I ran into this TV executive that I knew, and he's like, "Oh man, we just got the rights to the American version of The Office, and we're gonna have auditions for it soon, and inside, and I was like, oh, that's great, and inside I was like, oh, damn it, because I love the English Office. I was a huge fan of it, and I loved that idea for myself, and then the rest is history. But the actual audition, the first time I went in, I auditioned for Dwight and also for Michael Scott, and I did the terrible Ricky Gervais impersonation. I just totally did like pulling on the tie and like doing his gestures, and it was really bad. But the Dwight audition really suited me, obviously. So, and then we had callbacks that were really interesting because they mixed and matched us with lots of different people. I read with Bob Odenkirk, who was up for Michael Scott. He was like a close number 2, Better Call Saul, right? And a lot of other actresses for Pam and a couple other Jims, and they would mix and match us all. And sometimes we would improvise. They would say, hey, they had me and John Krasinski do a scene where he was like, asked me to watch his mug of hot coffee while he went to the bathroom. And it was just, that was it. And we just kind of improvised. And I improvised a scene with Jenna Fisher where I was telling her about how my girlfriend was stationed in Kuwait City and how much I missed her. But something about how like I would date her if my girlfriend ever came back or something like that. And it was a great improv because the entire improv, I just talked and Jenna was just totally, didn't say a word and just was stone-faced, looking disgustedly. And they said that was the improv, they knew that she was the right Pam. She's so perfect. Just
Nailed it.
specific and particular worldview, you know? And at the same time, I try and humanize him all the time. Like, so you can see what's motivating Dwight and how he sees the world and his own little rules that he has, you know? And I think that people just kind of get to, at first they might be a little turned off, like, oh, what a jerk that guy is. And then you just kind of laugh a little bit, and then there's some moments of vulnerability, and then he falls in love with Angela, and then you see how much he reveres Michael Scott, but he's mistreated, and how much he really kind of likes Jim underneath it all. And then so you kind of see how his misfit-isms are a coping mechanism, really. So I think it's, I was fortunate to train in the theater, and you know, in theater you just do a lot of work in like, who are the characters, what are they about, what do they want, why do they want it, you know, where does that come from, how do you put yourself in the shoes, how do they see the world through their lens. So I think that helped make him specific. Least like, honestly, Steve. Like, Steve is just a very thoughtful, quiet, sensitive, kind person, and not at all like Michael Scott. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, I'm Nathan, and I'm from Olympia, Washington. And I was just wondering if you ever noticed out in public, do people ever just like start spouting Dwight quotes at you?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Especially like this weekend, right?
Yeah. No, I would say people here have been very kind of oddly polite. You know, other places where they're not as polite, they're much more like, Dwight! Bear speaks Battlestar Galactica! But people, I think, are nicer in Seattle, a little more respectful.
A little more respectful. It must be nice, though, to see the great cosplay of Dwight.
Oh my
and,
God,
you know.
there must be 3 dozen Dwights here today, so thank you for the homage, yeah.
Hi.